So, so do you know when you first broke into it? Yeah, you obviously started off as a runner, as everybody does when they
Yeah.
break. So what was that like?
You know what? I really enjoyed running because, oh, did I? I don't know. I've got to be honest now. I enjoyed some aspects of it. I enjoyed the aspects where, you know, you're just running around London basically trying to get stuff for people. And I remember it would be a different company every week, really. So you'd start off with one company and then they'd be like, well, we don't really need you next week because we've not really got any shoots, but we can tell you another company you can go work for. So Soho is kind of, or was when I started running quite a while ago now, the base for media in London. So I was basically running all over Soho, giving people packages, buying coffees, you know, going and picking up stuff, taking people's dry cleaning to places, doing all the stuff that, you know, you see in the movies when someone is a runner or a personal assistant or any of those things. But then very, very quickly, people were like, oh, this guy can do more than that. And so I started very fast to edit stuff for people. I'd be the other camera on things. But I remember the worst feeling I ever had as a runner was when someone said to me, right, we're going to shoot an F1 commercial today. And who was the driver? I think it was David Coulthard with his big jaw came in, and I was like, oh no, it wasn't David Coulthard. It was an Australian driver. Anyway, he was Australian. He was a really lovely guy. And this guy came over to me and he goes, Laurence, I just need you to stand next to this camera and just make sure that everything's good. Tell me if it stops recording. And he goes, okay, it's all set and go. And I was like, okay, I'll just stand here. And I didn't touch it. And the next thing I know, the camera just falls off the tripod. And I'm stood next to it and the whole room just turns around and just sort of looks at me like, what did you do? And I'm just stood there like, I didn't touch it. I didn't do anything. And the guy comes over and he's like, you idiot. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe that you've ruined the day, you've ruined the shoot. If this is broken, you're going to pay for it. It's coming out of your wages. And I was like, I didn't do anything. And he just blamed me. So I was just like, oh my God, what the hell am I going to do? So I didn't really know. But the guy came over to me, the director of the whole shoot came over afterwards. He's like, don't worry about it. It's all right. But if the camera is broken, we're taking it out of your wages. And thankfully they didn't. But it's that kind of thing where you get blamed a lot for things that aren't your fault, but they need someone to blame. And so for a little while, if you can take that, I think you can take the rest of it. And it's actually not that bad.
Obviously, in 2020, things are a lot different. So, yeah. Do you think the job of a runner is obsolete pretty much?
That's an interesting question. I think is a lot of people don't realize anyone's job and how complex people's tasks are on a daily basis. Even if it can feel like the simplest thing, I think everyone can always do with a bit of help or someone to help them kind of lighten the load of what they're doing. And I often think that the job of the runner or the job of people who are just starting out in the industry can go underappreciated. And I think it's only really when you get to a point where you might need a runner, where there's, you're having meetings all day and you can't really take the time to go out and buy your own food or all this sort of thing. And you've got contracts and you've got someone saying we need to come up with a running order for the show and all this kind of thing, that you begin to appreciate the runner. I think when you say obsolete, I think you're making a good point, because a lot of people might not see that as the route to get into media now. That, a lot of people just go, well, I'll set up my own media thing and just see what happens. But I think there is something still quite noble about starting as a runner and working your way up. And I think the best thing about starting at the bottom of the chain, which probably, if we're honest, is the runner, is that you have an appreciation for that. So when you are then climbing up, you understand how hard it is for that person who's just starting out, and maybe you'll help them out a bit. So I don't think it's obsolete, but I do see what you mean in terms of, is that the only route anymore? Maybe it's not the only route in anymore. So I think there's multiple routes.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually.
Yeah.
But for somebody like, obviously, because of my disability, I could never properly be like a proper runner, so to speak, because obviously I can't physically do the job. So
Yeah, but that's what I found sort of fascinating with media is there is a job for everyone to do. And so, for instance, whilst you can't necessarily, be running all over Soho and giving people coffee and stuff, you can be a guy who can be editing or coordinating, or you could even be a gallery director, or you could be a vision mixer, or there are so many jobs that I think until you are actually in the media or until you're in a production team, you probably don't even know exist. Because from the outside, I think a lot of people just sort of go, so you just point the camera and that's it. And actually, when you're in it, then you realize how many more jobs and how complex it can be. So like I say, there's more than just one route in. And to be honest, I think you're probably already overqualified to be a runner. So
What is it? What is a gallery? Whatever you say, I can't remember that wording that you used. But what is it?
So a gallery is the process of, even we have a gallery on the kickoff, and we did a little behind the scenes, and I think a lot of people were surprised. But the gallery is basically the place where all the cameras and all the different media feeds go, and then they vision mix those together on, and through a gallery. And it's called the gallery, obviously, because you can display all the cameras and everyone can see all the media at once. And that's where the director of the show will sit. That's where the producer will sit. That's where the vision mixer sits. And to be honest, you put all of your team in a gallery and it's like the brain or the hub of the whole operation, really.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting.
Yeah.
I genuinely did not know it was called that.
Yeah, and that's why I'm on the podcast, is because I've got useless pieces of information like that for you.
Well, I do think some people might find it interesting. I know for a fact I have some viewers that are trying to break into the traditional media in the traditional way. So I think that will be interesting for some people to hear.
I remember when I was first, again, I was a runner, but as a runner also, sometimes you just get handed a laptop and they go, do this or do this, and, or press this button when I tell you. And I guess I always wanted to be part of a big crew. And there's something really exciting about going onto a set and being part of a team of people and thinking like, oh my God, I'm watching the best director with the best vision mixer with all these people. And people, when you are the runner, offer you little bits of information and little bits of help. So being in a gallery, I think, is actually, for me, was really exciting when I first started. And I think if you are a runner, my piece of advice would be to try and be as helpful as possible, to offer as much as possible. Because some of the runners with the best runners that we've had, actually, there's a guy on our show who works on our show now called Jack. And he started out as a runner. And, a lot of people, when they start out as runners, they just sort of stand in the corner and kind of don't really do very much and just kind of wait for you to talk to them. Jack was the opposite. And a bit like you, really. He was always reaching out. He was always going, can I help? Can I do something? He was proactive. And I think that's a really important part of trying to break into the media. The more proactive you can be, the more, helpful, and the more adaptable you can be, the better. And now Jack is a producer and has learned so much. And for a young guy is like a real pleasure to have on the team. So I think very quickly you can find yourself in a really good position.